how do you differentiate between what is knowledge in the light of Allah and what is people's opinions?
AlMaghrib Institute presents Q&A with Kamal al-Mekki.
When I was in college, somebody said, for example, in the context of martial arts, right? They're like, no, bowing is haram, straight up. Right? And in fact, they didn't say bowing is haram. They said martial arts is haram. Because there's
just
bowing.
because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I don't understand, right? So I went to the imam at the masjid. I had I was close with him. I'll always go to him with questions, and the way that he would answer a question was, he'd go into his library, open up like a dozen books, and, just start looking through it. Like, he knew the answer, but he just wanted to show me the process of like. Yeah. And so one of the things that he did was like, all right, well, first of all, like, show me, like, what do you guys do? How do you bow? Right? Just basic, like, it's like a half bow, recognizing the other individuals. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And then I'm like, but he said that the strongest opinion is this, like, is such and such. And he's like, yeah, but that's his opinion. That's the strongest opinion. And that to me was like a light bulb that went on. Right? In the sense that now, like, here's something that somebody's pointing out, something is haram because whatever, right? But like somebody who doesn't know, how does somebody navigate in that, I guess, seeming darkness? When people are trying to sell you their light.
Yeah. So we're talking about, yes, opinion versus actual teachings, right? Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, to be fair, right? Like a lot of the things that people express in terms of like the aspects of daily life that are not strictly documented in 1,000+ years ago are opinions, right?
Yeah, and there were things that we grew up with as students of knowledge, thinking they're Deen, and then we discovered their opinions.
Yeah.
I remember one of our Shaykh, he said he was at this class by like a top level scholar, like a big shot. And he said, the Shaykh said, and he was a young man, by the way, I don't know if he was 19 or 18, but he said, I was sitting next to the Shaykh, and the Shaykh said, it is permissible to dye blonde hair black, but it's not permissible to dye black hair into any other color. So I asked the Shaykh, and this is like in the gathering, and he's a big Shaykh. He said, I asked the Shaykh, why is that the case? He said, because black is the best hair color. And you can't go from the best to something lower. So then he said, and it was quite a little bit kind of maybe abrasive, but he says to him, in your opinion, it's the best color. And I really love the story because the Shaykh, he's a big shot in front of all these people, and then this young man said that to him. And then the Shaykh he stared at him and he stayed quiet and he said, perhaps we'll review the matter. Meaning, I kind of take that back, because I just assumed that black is the best hair color, but not to everybody.
Right.
So,
I mean, somebody else might be like, well, you can't really dye black hair. You have to bleach it first.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I guess someone would have to know something like that.
Like Omar said, if I happened to walk into the court of Imam Malik, they kick me out.
Oh, he'd lash you.
For what?
His questions.
Which violation? Oh, his
Which violations, huh? I call Bilal Abu Technical.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, you have to bleach it first. Okay, thank you.
But it's true. Like the fact, this is the thing, like technicalities I feel like are important, because if you're going to give an opinion on something, you better know the technical in and outs as to what, like the Shaykh was like, yeah, you can't, like, because black is a bear. Like, yeah, but you can't. Like, how would you dye black hair? You could color it with a spray that's like, not permanent, but like temporary.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, like if you want to get your hair salon done, like you would need to bleach it. Or maybe your hair is gray, then you could color it something. But like, I just find it like, to me, if I was in that circle, like that Shaykh would lose all credibility with me.
Why, be merciful. Just from one thing.
No, because
the great scholar, he lost it because of hair color.
No, because of the fact that like if it's about process. How do you not follow the process that you promote?
Because people are human. That's the point. And even that individual, even the notion of how do you get a flashlight, how do you navigate through the darkness? At the end of the day, you are required to follow the people that you believe have the most knowledge and most taqwa on a particular subject. You go and you ask scholars if you do not know. At the same time, you bring your mind with you. And so even though you asked a student of knowledge and he told you martial arts is completely haram because of bowing, you're like, you didn't just blindly say, okay, I guess like I'm going to follow this for the rest of my life. You're like, okay, that still doesn't sit with me. So I'm going to ask somebody who will go through a particular process to give me an answer. And even if that imam had given you the same answer, he might have given it to you in a way that was more convincing.
So what's then the difference between what you just described and quote unquote fatwa shopping?
Fatwa shopping is you going on, you're not respecting any sort of process. You're looking for your answer. As opposed to me going, right? I'm not required to be blind. If I go and I feel like that sheikh doesn't have a good grasp on the subject, or they haven't given me an answer that is satisfactory to me from a process standpoint, and I go and I find somebody else to ask that person, that's not me fatwa shopping. But if I'm just looking for the person, and I'm not concerned about the process necessarily, but I'm just looking for the person who will give me the answer that I want, that's fatwa shopping.
Okay. You're seeking the truth. You know, they say, if I don't have enough knowledge to do my own research and come up with an opinion, what do? The scholars say you go to someone that you trust their deen and their knowledge.
Okay.
And so, because they can be knowledgeable but not have taqwa. You know, Imam Malik used to say, don't take your deen from a fasiq. Yani, someone who's lacks moral restraint and a dissolute, and he still would have knowledge. But they said these 2 points, his deen and then whatever he says, you go by that. And that shows you the seriousness of a fatwa, because even if what he said to you was incorrect and you were doing something haram or borderline haram, on the day of judgment, when Allah asks you, why did you do that? Your answer is, Shaykh so-and-so told me. And then you're off the hook, and Shaykh so-and-so is called and he has to answer. And that's, because of that, like, why would you ever want to give a fatwa? I mean, it's so serious that this guy you said to would just walk away, and now you have to answer.
No, but I feel as though that, granted, the allowance of something would be more risky in a hereafter standpoint if it's wrong. But I feel like those same students of knowledge and people of knowledge and scholars or whatnot tend to default towards, no, this is not allowed because I don't want to.
Prohibition is easier.
Yes.
That's why Sufyan al-Thawri, he says, العلم عندنا الرخصة عن ثقة أما التحريم فكلنا يحسنه. He says, knowledge for us is being able to discern or figure out a concession. Where is something halal and why would it be halal? As for saying something is haram, he said, we're all good at that. Anybody's good at saying that's haram.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. But who's the one who's able to be like, no, this is halal because of such and such?
But this is maybe a very elementary, rudimentary principle, but like, dunya-related stuff is
the
halal.
Default is
that
it's
halal until it's proven haram.
But the knee-jerk reaction for things that are unknown, the knee-jerk reaction with regards to things that are misunderstood, especially if they seem to be controversial, is that it's haram. That's people's default,
But then,
reaction.
Isn't the risk still there?
Because we also have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, "Al-halal bayn wal-haram bayn wa baynahuma umur mushtabahat." That the halal is clear and the haram is clear, and between them are doubtful matters. لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many people don't know them. So whoever avoids the shubuhat, they have protected their religion and their honor. And so people default to that. From a good place.
Sure.
They default to the protection of their dignity and their honor.
They mean well.
You know, concerning that hadith, I personally know some people who were playing soccer, and a guy walked up to them and he said, soccer is haram. They said, what's your dalil? He said, my dalil is al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. Halal is clear and haram is clear, and it's clear to me that this is haram.
Oh my goodness.
That was his evidence.
What?
So he said soccer is haram because it's clear it's haram.
Bro, so
can you imagine?
When I was a youth director for a couple of years back in Jersey, right? When I was in college at the time, and it was during Ramadan, and we had some programs going for the youth and whatnot during the weekend. Now every year, I think that was the last year that the community did it because of this incident that took place. Every year they would import some dude from like South Africa or something like that, some hardcore, everything's haram type of sheikh. This big, burly sheikh and his 24-year-old son are both there, and they're giving their dars, and they're classes during Ramadan. They're leading the salah. All that's fine and dandy. I'm doing my thing with with the guys and my peers, and we were playing football or something, and we had recorded some of that footage and we were playing on the TV, right? So now the thing is, the next morning, I get so we're there for Fajr, and the Shaykh is talking about how people are watching inappropriate things, and the fact that it's happening in the masjid. Now I have no idea he's talking about me.
Oh,
right? The president of the masjid comes up and is like, "What did you guys do?" I'm like, "What do you like? I don't understand." He's like, "The son of the Shaykh, who was also visiting, said that he saw you guys clearly watching things that were inappropriate on the TV, and then he told his dad and he told us." I'm like, "We're watching our football footage." Like,
and then?
And he's like, "Can you show me?" I was like, "Yeah," and the DVD was still in the thing, right? And I played it back. Apparently for him, it was inappropriate for us to play football and watch us play it afterwards.
In the masjid.
In the masjid.
Yeah.
So he's fully aware of what you were doing and still didn't think that was right.
But I could see that as being culturally for him. If he's coming from that culture, I could see that as being like inappropriate. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But I could see where he's coming from. It's not like he's coming from
isn't it
Mars.
also clear to understand, like, you are not in your homeland?
Yeah. But people are people. It takes them a while to understand other cultures. Like, it takes them a while to absorb. Sometimes it takes them years and years and years for them to really become familiar with another culture. So I could see that.
I know of someone who was, he prayed in the masjid in China, actually. And when he moved his finger into the tashahhud, the old man next to him broke his finger. Like, he grabbed it quickly and twisted it and broke it.
Illallah.
And there was another guy,
Did he get
Bardo
punched
in
in the
China.
face?
He prayed Maghrib with them, and then nobody says Ameen there. In their mind, only like extremists and what have you say Ameen. So
Like
he
after
said,
the Fatiha.
when the Imam says Walad Dalin, he said he was the only one. And sometimes you go to these masajid where they don't do the Ameen, and you're the only one like Next rak'ah, you're like, I'm done. I'm not. And they beat him up after the salah.
This is in China?
Yeah. And just people not able to separate culture
From Deen.